Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. First off, Happy New Year's. 2022 was a heavy year, so let's make 2023 as good as it possibly can be. Even with all the bad that has happened, I still believe in the potential for good in this world. It really was a mix of some of the worst and best parts of my life. So I'm going to do everything in my power to nurture the best parts and keep building a foundation of good for not only myself, but hopefully for others in this future. As always, send you nothing but love and wishing you all the best in this new year. With that being said, let's officially start this review. And it is a review I've been anticipating for quite some time now because there was one last game that I had to finish before I felt ready to complete my year-end list. Honestly, I should have finished this game a long time ago. As always, life kept me busy, but if I'm being honest, it had a lot more to do with a certain announcement at the Game Awards. Yes, it was Hades 2, and it sent me down this endless rabbit hole of Hades runs. I pretty much finished everything I could finish in that game, except for completing it on 32 Heat. I have yet to succeed, but eventually I will prevail. Anyway, since I'm on vacation now, I had time to fully immerse myself into the world of Pentiment. And my god, what a gaming experience. My colleagues at work have heard me rave about this game just as I started playing it, but now, after about a week or so after finishing the game and having time to just fully digest my thoughts, I am ready with a fully formed opinion on what I feel is one of the best games of the year. To briefly go over the synopsis, Pentiment is a narrative adventure role-playing game set in 16th century Bavaria. You play as the journeyman artist Andreas Mahler, who happens to be in the town of Tassing for an apprenticeship as an illustrator at Kearsall Abbey. Without going too much into details, you spend your time getting to know the lay of the land and speaking with the townsfolk. You learn a lot about their lifestyles, and not only do you learn about the history of Tassing, but you are immersed in the general time period itself. And before you know it, you get caught up in a murder mystery of surprising depth. So let me start off by saying that this is going to be a hard sell for a lot of people. And to be clear, it's perfectly okay if this is not your cup of tea. To each their own in the end. If you're looking for a meaty gameplay experience, you won't get that here. It is indeed a very minimalist approach to gaming. Mechanically, all you do is move left to right in a 2D scene, and press A to talk to someone, and then press A again once you've selected your dialogue option. That's it. Oh, and reading a lot of text. I know what a lot of you might be thinking right now. Yawn. Sounds boring as hell. But don't make the mistake of interpreting this simplicity as Pentiment being bereft of any complexity. Underestimate this game at your own peril. So by all means, let me try and convince you why I think this game is absolutely brilliant. First, let's talk about the incredible art style. Even if the game won't be a right fit for you, I think it's impossible to deny just how beautifully crafted this game is. The game looks like a medieval painting come to life. Let's take a look at a few examples and jump back in the game. Simply breathtaking. You won't find any other game this year, or any other year for that matter, that looks quite like this. Moving forward, everything about this game's visual presentation has been handled with a delicate attention to detail. For starters, the calligraphy has received a ton of love and care. It's authentic to ancient religious texts and really goes a long way to giving this game personality and keeping you immersed in this world. It can be a bit hard to read at times, but luckily there is an option to have normal font instead of the special stylized font. Personally, I stuck to the stylized font, one because it's so beautiful, and two because it really is representative of the time period we're in. Even more impressive is how the writing style changes based on who you're speaking to. The priests at the Abbey are well educated, so their font is a sophisticated work of art, but the humble farmers of Tassing have a much simpler text in comparison. Additionally, I absolutely love the look and feel of your journal. It acts as a Swiss Army knife of sorts, which includes your quest log, includes a beautifully intricate map, and features both a character and world lore glossary encyclopedia thing. I'm not sure which one to call it. In any case, this encyclopedia in particular is extremely useful with its footnotes. During your conversations, you will notice words highlighted or underscored in red. At a press of a button, that word will be explained to you. I can't tell you just how vital it is in a game that throws this much history and characters at you as Pentiment does. It's incredibly dense and well thought out. It shows just how much painstaking research has gone into creating a very cohesive medieval world. Honestly, I think it's one of the crowning achievements in historical research in gaming thus far, and I don't feel like I'm overselling that. But beyond the visuals, it's a story and writing that gives the game power. It's intelligent and thought-provoking adventure that really went above and beyond my expectations of what a murder mystery can do. It's scholarly and philosophic in the way it tackles theology. If you're worried about the game taking itself too seriously, fear not, because at the same time, it is a fiercely satirical piece. There are some genuine laugh out loud moments due to some of your responses. And though indeed it may be funny in the short term, perhaps in the long term, it might not have been the smartest way to play your cards. I equally love the spelling mistakes that are corrected mid-dialogue constantly throughout your playthrough. It's the kind of detail that gives the game a unique sense of style and a witty sense of humor. Now, I've been talking about this game for a minute now, and the best way to describe Pentiment is to call it one of the most potent role-playing games of the year. It's not the kind of typical RPG from nowadays, or even from Obsidian's past games, where your character has stats, gains experience points, and the like. No, here I find it to be a much more traditional, nuanced, and interesting approach to role-playing. You choose your background, what you studied in, where you grew up, what languages you can speak, and right out of the gate, this creates a very unique and personalized playthrough for yourself. Of course, your main interaction is through dialogue choices that impact the narrative of Pentiment. And those background choices will have a considerable impact on what kind of choices you can make. There's a host of rich and memorable characters that only grow deeper the more you get to know them and the more you talk to other people and gain different perspectives. You will find yourself in complex moral situations where the right or wrong answer is never clear. At times, you'll say something only to have this big, "this will be remembered" icon on screen. But the real question is, will this be remembered for good or bad? And that depends. Were you questioning someone's faith in God? Did you defend someone and wound another person's ego while doing so? The consequences are never obvious, and even seemingly mundane actions can yield unexpected results. And that may be just one of the most powerful qualities of this game, the consequences. I remember when I was first playing, I was taking all these choices and wondering how these would impact the progression of the narrative as I would be going forward. And just as I finished asking that question, it all came crashing down on me in a shocking and unexpected way. It's a multi-layered mystery that I will not spoil for you. It gets deeper the more you investigate your clues, but the trouble is that time is your currency. The clock keeps ticking, so there's no way you'll be able to explore all your leads. And even then, will you say the right things? Did you talk to the right people? In the right order? Will you learn the right clues that will help you? Good luck. What more can I say about the narrative without spoiling too much? As you can tell, I absolutely love the story and mystery of Pentiment. It's so rare to have a game explore ideas of how art is interpreted, how it affects people, who made it, under whose influence, and so forth. Pentiment tackles a lot of ideas, and I'm just scratching the surface. I'll let you guys discover the rest for yourselves. One aspect I have yet to speak of is the general sound design. The background noise is aptly chosen and never too intrusive. In the town, you'll hear birds chirping, pigs squealing, the state of the weather, and the usual busybody locals working on their chores. In the Abbey, the sound is much more subdued, with the occasional priestly chants. During the dialogue, there is no voice acting to speak of, but you are always accompanied with this pen-scratching sound, as if the words weren't spoken, but were being written. I don't know about you, but there's something rather ASMR about it, and I find it very calming and relaxing. Indeed, sonically, Pentiment is a rather sober world. Even though the game is absent of music much of the time, the moments where the game does choose to have music is remarkably well executed. It can either be blissfully calming, awe-inspiring, or at times damn near hair-raising. That sudden contrast from sounds always helps punctuate important narrative events. So a massive shout out to Alchemy for creating a wonderful soundtrack that perfectly complements the world. It really goes a long way to helping me immerse into this world even further than I already was. And beyond Alchemy, which once again, they did a marvelous job, there was one musical contribution that came as a massive surprise. In the intro credits, we see credits given to Alchemy, of course. But what I did not expect to see was Lingua Ignota's name on the same page. What? Never in a million years would I thought that Lingua Ignota would collaborate on a video game, but this is the perfect project. I think it's so cool that Pentiment ends up taking someone like Kristen Hayter and including her on a game like this. It was an absolutely sublime choice to have Lingua Ignota make the game's epilogue soundtrack. For those uninitiated with Lingua Ignota, she made my album of the year back in 2021 with Sinner Get Ready. In a nutshell, that is an album that sends an earthquake through my soul. A brutal, terrifying, but powerful and spectacular album. Not for the faint of heart, but my god, what a musical experience. I couldn't recommend it higher. How lucky are we that we get an amazing game and lingua ignota paired with it. Chef's kiss. What more can I say? As you can tell, I have a lot to say about this game, and I'm really making an effort to leave as many narrative details out as possible. And once again, I recognize that this might not be a game for a lot of people, if not most people. If you're not into very slow burn narrative experiences with basically 20 hours worth of reading to be done, then do yourself a favor and skip this game. As you may have noticed with the burgeoning bookshelves behind me, I'm clearly barking up the right tree here. And personally, I'm thrilled to see more games with a lot of reading involved in them. Frankly, some of the best games of the last decade, and really of all time at this point, have been among these kinds. Take Disco Elysium and Persona 5 as shining examples. And granted, these two titles feature comparatively more complex gameplay systems than Pentiment does. And yet, I can't help but include Pentiment into what I now consider as this holy trinity of modern video game writing. Additionally, Pentiment had my mind returning to some classic literature, with Umberto Eco's The Name of the Rose. Thematically, there are quite a few similarities between the game and the novel, as The Name of the Rose is a murder mystery questioning the meaning of truth through a theological, philosophical, and historical point of view. And while I'm mentioning Umberto Eco, number one, may he rest in peace, he passed away not too long ago, and number two, he's a phenomenal writer. Highly recommend his books for anyone who is interested. I have yet to read all his works, but The Name of the Rose is definitely highly recommended as his first and arguably his most famous novel, but also Foucault's Pendulum and Baldolino are spectacular reads. Which brings me back full circle to what I consider to be a rather miraculous game creation. Obsidian has been making waves for years now with their incredible narrative gaming experiences. Games such as Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, Fallout New Vegas, Pillars of Eternity, and recently The Outer Worlds. All great games, so it's even more shocking when you put Pentiment in that lineup. It feels like a major left turn for a studio that has worked on some pretty impressive and robust gaming systems, to now work on a much more bare bones gaming experience. It's the kind of move you rarely, if ever, see a AAA game studio take. And some may argue that Obsidian perhaps isn't quite at the AAA level, which, fair enough. But even so, game development is a complex and costly venture. So generally speaking, a studio is going to go after an idea that they know at least a lot of people will be somewhat excited about. Pentiment certainly does not feel like that kind of game. It's as niche as it can possibly be. So really, it feels like a miracle that Obsidian had the balls to tackle this idea, and on top of that to get financial support to make it happen. Praise the almighty Lord that it came to be. Honestly, I'd give Pentiment a 10 out of 10. There are so few games that have such a unique identity and are able to fully realize their vision. The only thing that gives me pause of giving such a remarkably high score is maybe a few minor points of criticism. None of these are enough to break the game, but perhaps after I list them, I come to the realization, you know what, maybe I should bring it down to, let's say, a 9.5 out of 10, which is still an outstanding score and really is a force to be reckoned with. Nevertheless, for the sake of transparency and being constructively critical, here are a few examples. There are some conflicting interactions, such as the sweet spot to talk to someone and the interaction to leave the area may be like a hair's length away from each other. On another point, though, the game is quite minimalist in its visual fidelity, which is fine. Like I said, it doesn't lack depth at all in the grand scheme of things, though in some moments, those neutral animation poses of some characters do overstay their welcome. Especially when you're talking to someone and you anger them, yet they keep their docile and neutral animation pose. Or this one time when I was talking to a villager and she was telling me about how her husband tragically passed away, with a big, stupid smile on her face. Yeah, little details like that do break the immersion, and especially since it's rather inconsistent, because other main characters and other rather minor characters won't have that. And perhaps a few UX improvements could be needed, such as being able to backtrack on the last piece of dialogue that was spoken, that I might have accidentally skipped over. And the journal for the most part is brilliant, but the quest log itself can become a bit of a massive wall of text, especially as you progress later in the story. Yes, the completed quests are crossed out, but for the actual in-progress quest, it would be nice to have at least like a checklist that, hey, you did this, you did that part, rather than just having all the information displayed to you at the same time. It does kind of remind me, though this memory isn't quite fresh in my mind anymore, of that journal in Morrowind, which included everything you ever did. Is it realistic? Perhaps. Is it useful for the player itself? Not really from a UX point of view. Finally, there are a variety of exotic activities that are thrown into the game loop, and honestly, I do enjoy them very much, even if they are quite simple. That's fine, they add quite a lot of character and spice into the world. And though I do like what is here and they never overstay their welcome, I wish that there were more of these kind of activities because they do go a long way into giving personality and just adding a much needed change of rhythm to the game. And that's really all the complaints I have in this game. As far as I'm concerned, it's a remarkable gaming experience. Pentiment is so unique and shamelessly itself. Oh, and did I mention you can pet the animals? Yeah, forget the hesitation. 10 out of 10. And that is all for today. Next video will be my list for the best games of 2022. Won't be too long now, I promise. I really have been enjoying the time to just rest, see friends, family, or to do sweet fuck all. Anyways, as always, wishing you and your loved ones nothing but the best. Take care and talk to you in that upcoming year-end video soon. Bye now.